Hi, and welcome to Something to Talk About. I'm STALindaMcNamee, and for the next hour, as you saw from our introduction, we're going to talk about the importance of pets. Although I kind of realized sitting here that I didn't really prep my guest for questions about the importance of pets, so we're going to have to kind of work that in. Anyway, I would like to invite you, if you are interested in speaking to our guest, whom you will meet momentarily, you can always give us a call at 781-270-9199. You can also email me anytime, day or night, at talk@bcattv.org. If you have a suggestion for a future topic, I would love to hear about it. This evening for crew, we are once again down to a very limited number. Chris Flaherty, staff member here, making sure that us volunteers always behave ourselves, and Evan McNamee, who is avoiding homework right now and coming and hanging out with Mom at BCAT. So thank you, Evan. And because Evan is here, there is no daddy date night. So hopefully daddy is enjoying himself in a nice quiet house. So now I would like to introduce you to my wonderful guest, who you might remember because she was also here in 2019, Crystal Arnott, who is now the Interim Executive Director at the Lowell Humane Society. Welcome, and congratulations on the new role.
Thank you.
Whether it is permanent or not, I will stay away from there. Temporary right now. Well, welcome and thank you for coming. And thank you for bringing a friend with you. So we will meet him momentarily, but can we start out and can you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, how you came to the Burlington area, and what made you start working for the Lowell Humane Society?
Sure. So I grew up in Lawrence, and I went to school at Essex Agricultural High School.
Okay.
And surprisingly, did not study animals. I was in the plant science program.
Okay. Wow, that's really different.
It was
plants,
very
animals.
And after that, I went to school, and then I had a number of different jobs, all very different from each other, trying to just kind of figure out where I was headed in life. I think like a lot of us when we're younger.
Some of us are still thinking about it.
And I got involved with the dog park in Lowell, and we were having a lot of fun raising funds for the dog park. And I thought I should get involved and do this for animals who like really need it, not just for a fun place to play. And I started as a kennel attendant at the Humane Society, and then quickly went through the ranks and was able to join the as the community outreach and fundraiser position.
I think that's what role you were serving in when you were last here.
Yeah, and I kind of just stayed with it, and I was there for 13 years.
Wow.
And I left last summer, actually, to stay home with my kiddos. And then when Jill, our former executive director, moved on in December, she gave her notice. They reached out to me, the board of directors reached out to me to see if I could help out since I knew the ropes already.
Excellent. Hold on until we can, do it, because you want to make sure that, especially in that role, the decision is the right one.
Exactly, yeah. So they're really excited about doing a national search for a new director, and really make sure that the right person is lined up. So
excellent. Now, are you going to be involved in any of that, or are you just kind of keeping the place?
I'm just kind of keeping the place going right now, but I would love to be involved in that because I do love the organization so much. So I would love to help them find the right person for the spot. Yeah.
So working with the Humane Society for so many years, how do you not go home with a new pet every week? Or
that is very easy because I have a husband. He would not let me take home every animal, though we did adopt quite a few over the years. Our specialty was hospice cats and hospice ferrets for a long time. So we would take in the ones who...
hard.
It is really hard, but when they come into the shelter and they are sick or they're very old and sick but still have such a great quality of life, they might only have a few months, and it's difficult to find an adopter that can take that on, and you don't want them spending a lot of time in the shelter as they wait for that person to come along. So we would take them home, and often they would live a lot longer than what we thought they would,
Of course.
which is always great. We had a few rats that were hospice rats.
Okay. I
Ferrets.
can't imagine a rat as a pet.
Oh my
do they
gosh.
really make good pets?
They really do. They are so social and friendly, and they're so smart. You can train them to do anything.
Wow.
Yeah, there are some great videos you can see online of rats running through obstacle courses and fetching.
Oh, wow.
I think that was my favorite video I've seen recently. They would throw a little jingle ball, and the rat would fetch it and bring it back and get their little treat, and they would just do it over and over again.
Fun.
And they like to dive too, so they'll dive underwater to grab a treat, and they are really fun. Next time I'll bring a rat for you to meet.
Okay. Good. I'm glad that's going to be next time. So who do we have here?
This is Lorax, and we named him Lorax after the Dr. Seuss character because of this beard here. We thought it was very reminiscent of the character, the Lorax.
He's got the eyebrows too.
Yes, and he is a sweet little guy. He's only a year and a half old. He's a Chihuahua mix, and he was brought to the shelter with his mom, who is about 3 years old, and his brother, Chadwick, who looks nothing like him. He's a little short-haired black Chihuahua. And they came in because they were just a few too many pets in the home.
Oh, okay.
So the family felt like they needed to give a few of them up so that they could provide better care for the ones they were keeping.
Fair enough. Well, hopefully Lorax will find his forever home soon.
I don't think he'll have trouble.
No. So speaking of, well, we're not speaking of it yet, but I know a lot of people over the pandemic have found themselves being home a lot more and have wanted to adopt pets. Have you seen more activity at the shelter because of the pandemic, and has it been people looking for animals? Or how has the flip side been where people are losing their jobs and they can't take care of their pets anymore?
I think at the very beginning of the pandemic and all of the closures, we were quite surprised that there were not as many surrenders that we thought they would be.
Oh,
so
okay, that's a good thing.
Yeah, I was still with the shelter when it first started, and we really expected people to be banging on our door. We certainly increased our food pantry assistance, which is something we offer to anyone who needs it, so that they don't have to surrender their pet if they're going through a rough time.
I didn't realize you had that service.
Yeah,
we're gonna have to talk about that some more.
Yeah, definitely. But we, at the beginning, we did not see that increase, and we actually saw a decrease at the beginning of the pandemic.
Oh, okay.
And over time, we've definitely seen an increase in adoptions, but the surrenders have not spiked up at all.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
So how have the adoptions been going? Have you been able to keep up with the demand?
Yes and no. I think a lot of people look for puppies and kittens, which we just don't see a lot of in New England as a whole. There's just been some really, really strong spay-neuter efforts being made as a whole. So there aren't as many kittens and puppies around as there used to be maybe 10, 15 years ago.
Oh, okay.
But our adult pets are being adopted very quickly. And we're seeing a lot more medical cases than we used to. So a lot of the pets we see coming in are pets that have medical issues. We have several diabetic cats right now. We have a few cats with thyroid issues. We have a dog, his mom actually, Lorax's mom is being treated for heartworm right now, which is a lengthy treatment. So she'll be in our system in a foster home for a few months. So she receives treatment for that. So it's been a kind of shift in the types of animals we're seeing now that we're not so inundated with those kittens and puppies that we were. We're really able to give the older pets who need that attention a chance for a second home.
Now, if an animal, I'm busy right now. I'm talking to. Can't call you mom yet.
We call ourselves like auntie.
Auntie.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm your auntie.
Totally lost my train of thought.
He's too cute.
But with
he does it.
with some of the senior animals, or with the animals that have pre-existing conditions like diabetes or thyroid issues, do you provide training for people who are willing to give these animals homes, or are you just looking for people who already have the experience?
We're looking for folks who are willing to learn. If they have experience giving pets medication, it's usually preferred. But just a good history with a veterinarian in general is what we're usually looking for. And we don't have a veterinarian on staff, but we have a veterinarian on our board. We have several volunteer veterinarians who come in and provide vet care for the pets for us. And we usually recommend, if there's a pet with a medical condition, that someone talk to their veterinarian about the condition and what their recommendations for treatment will be compared to what we are recommending or how they've been treated while with us, so that people can be prepared.
Because I'm thinking like diabetes, you'd have to give like regular injections, and I wouldn't know the first thing about trying to give an animal care like
and
that.
Checking their blood glucose. We have two cats right now that are insulin dependent. And then we also have a cat who is, we call it in remission. Cats are funny. They can go in and out where they can eat a special diet and go for quite some time without having any sort of relapses. But you do need a really good relationship with your vet and really be paying attention for the, small changes that can happen so that you can get them on the insulin.
How expensive are these treatments? So if somebody adopts the animal, what should they expect?
It really just depends on what type of treatment it is. So for a diabetic cat, often you can get the insulin right at Walmart pretty inexpensively for the type of insulin that they are on. So it can be
But you'd be able to kind of advise them saying, okay, if you adopted, it would be X amount extra.
What we typically do is we give them the list of what types of medications they're currently prescribed, and we have them follow up with their veterinarian for pricing. We advise them on where else you can get the medications other than the veterinarian, if it is something you can get at a human pharmacy. So we don't give the exact prices because we don't know where they may go for treatment, and it can really vary depending, on the veterinarian. But we give them the list of what the treatment is so they can look into it themselves. And we'll keep the animal, on hold for them while they do that research. People are usually able to do that fairly quickly with their
Waiting for him to step in that water dish.
I know.
So I know a lot, it seems to me, and again, I haven't really researched this, but like the old-fashioned puppy mills are kind of going by the wayside, and a lot of people, well, I don't know if they are, but the push to adopt from shelters, that message seems to be getting out. What is that message of why are shelter adoptions important?
Yeah, to give a second chance to animals who are in this position for no reason of their own most of the time, pets are in shelters typically because of people issues, not necessarily pet issues. So it's really important that people look at shelters and give the shelter pets a chance. I think there was an old mentality that, the pound animals or the shelter animals were there because they had a problem, because they have a behavior issue. But really, most of the time, it's things like people are having, a divorce and neither person can take the pet where they're moving to, or a lot of people moving into a new home or, a rental that doesn't allow pets.
Right.
So really, it's been nice to see that movement shift where people are, preaching that adopt, don't shop mentality. Puppy mills, unfortunately, are still very much a thing out there. And I,
maybe I'm glad I didn't do that research.
We're definitely.
Does he want to jump up here?
He might want to come up. Yeah. I don't know that he'll jump. He's a little too small. Good boy. But we aren't necessarily like completely anti-breeder. There's a lot of reasons that people would select a breeder over a shelter. If you're looking for a very specific breed, if you're looking for a working dog with a history and a line of, a certain job. But we recommend that people really look into the breeder, make sure they can meet the mom, make sure they can see where they're, being cared for. If people are reluctant to let you see where the dog is, where the parents are,
Red flag.
if they're
Ding, ding,
if they're
ding.
reluctant to let you know, who the father is and
Don't follow
have
suit.
access to the person who owns, both the mother and father,
Okay.
that can be a red flag sometimes. And so we just recommend that people really do their due diligence and make sure that it's a responsible person, giving their dog a break between litters, people who breed them back to back to back. It's really not healthy for the mom.
Right.
So we're not totally anti-breeder. We're just, do your research.
Yeah.
And
Do
it's
your
the same
homework.
for shelters, you want to make sure you research shelters and rescues because unfortunately there are some groups out there that are posing as rescues and they're, sending dogs who are not vaccinated and, they didn't even look for an owner, things like that. So you really want to make sure that the organization you work with, especially if they're shipping from out of state, just make sure that, they're clear about where the dogs are coming from and sending, medical history with them, their vaccination paperwork and that kind of thing.
Speaking of shipping from animals, does the Humane Society do like exchanges? Because I know like a lot of animals from the south have been transported up north for homes.
Yep.
How does that work?
So a lot of people don't realize that the individual Humane Society shelters in towns and are not all interconnected.
Oh,
the Humane
okay.
Society of the United States is a separate entity all its own, and they do a lot of really wonderful things for organizations. We've received grants from them ourselves,
Oh, okay.
and they do organize transports from disaster situations and things like that. But we don't participate in transport really because we're so small. We focus on local dogs, and we also don't have quarantine facility. So Massachusetts has one of the most strict importation laws on the
Okay.
books in the country.
Really?
Yep. So, and that's really to protect the health of the pets that are here in our state.
Okay.
So it is really difficult, to make sure you're doing it legally,
Okay.
which is good. It's, to prevent sick dogs from coming in and
Right.
transporting, dogs in that have all sorts of diseases. So
Okay.
we don't, because we don't have that quarantine access.
Do you still have to quarantine any animal that's surrendered to you? How does,
We do not. No.
Oh, okay.
No. We don't generally take really any pets outside of Massachusetts.
Okay.
Sometimes pets from southern New Hampshire will come in.
Okay.
But
I just
for the
wasn't
most
sure if it was
part-
just introducing a new animal to the group because you don't want anything
Right.
transmitting from.
Yeah, there's no requirement, but we do generally house them, as separate as possible to prevent that.
So when somebody wants to adopt a pet, how do they know what pet is right for them?
It really is a matter of listening to your adoption counselor to find out the history of the pet if we have it, and also find out what their behavior has been like since they've been with us. And really thinking about what it is you're looking for in a pet. I think a lot of times people have an idea of what they want. I really want a couch potato. I'm not a big hiker. I want a dog that I can, bring out for a short walk around the neighborhood and then go home and, watch The
Curl up
Bachelor
on the
with.
couch.
Yeah. But then they get to the shelter and they just see that cute puppy
Exactly.
that's jumping and climbing and needs 4 hours of exercise every day.
But he's so cute.
And sometimes that certainly works out, but unfortunately, a lot of times, 6 months down the line, when the dog's 80 pounds and a little more exuberant than you wanted, it can really
The
work.
novelty has worn off.
Exactly. So just being honest with yourself about what it is you're looking for in a pet, and coming to the shelter and telling the staff what you're looking for and letting them kind of guide you to what will be a good match for you.
Because I'm just like mesmerized by this little guy.
I love
he's trying
so relaxed.
really hard to stay awake.
I'm expecting to see him just kind of tip over and fall asleep.
But with, certain breeds, like if somebody comes in and they're like, I want that couch potato, do your adoption counselors have, well, hopefully they have not the knowledge, but do they try to point families in the right direction? Well, maybe you might want to look at something that has this breed somewhere in its genealogy.
We tend to more point them towards specific pets.
Okay.
Because, even in individual breeds, they can have a range of personality. So we'll tend to point them towards a specific animal that might match them in the shelter. So we get to know them so very well. Our volunteers work with the animals and send us notes about their personalities when they're with them. So we all kind of communicate to get to know them the best we can. So we'll kind of steer people in the direction of a pet that we think will best match their lifestyle. So it's a lot of conversation when we're working with adopters, just kind of finding out what they're looking for and what it is that, maybe brought them into the shelter about a certain pet, and then just make sure it's a good match.
Now, are there trials like take the pet home for a weekend thing, or?
We don't do that right now. Generally, we have been able to find some good matches to start off with. There have been a few times we've done it with pets who we knew maybe had some stranger danger, and it was a question about whether or not the family was going to feel comfortable managing their behavior and things like that. That we've been opened up to a little bit of a trial, but for the most part, we can be pretty confident with our matches, and we just send them home for adoption.
Now, I know you have animals that live in the shelter, preferably temporarily, but what kind of foster programs do you have if you do fosters?
We do. Yep. We have foster programs for every type of pet that is at the shelter. We can take in any domestic pet. We don't do farm animals or anything like that. But we have cat foster homes that will take in our senior pets who need medications, or the moms with kittens. We do still occasionally see them. We have fosters that'll take in behavior cats. So maybe a cat who in a previous home maybe had spotty litter box history, and where we think it was due to the brand new baby that was screaming and crying all the time, and the cat just was not having it. So we'll try them out in a home that doesn't have that trigger. And if they're successful, we'll adopt them out with full disclosure to the adopter what the trigger was, and make sure that they don't have that trigger or plan on having that trigger. And then we have foster homes that take dogs for medical issues, dogs for puppies, mom dogs with puppies. They'll take them for behavior issues, to work with those behaviors. So just anything you can think of, we'll foster out. We have a ton of guinea pigs in foster care right now. We have a ton of guinea pigs in general right now. So anybody that's looking for a little piggy.
Do you have any idea why guinea pigs are so popular at the shelter right now?
I think that part of it might have to do with the pandemic, and so many folks were stuck at home. I do think that a lot of people went and got a pet, and that was kind of a small pet. They thought they, maybe keep the kids busy while they're home. And now, it's been a few years and they're not as interested in it anymore. Another thing, a problem we've seen is pet stores selling guinea pigs that are pregnant. And so people end up with they 4,
buy one and
5.
A week later have 6.
Guinea pigs can breed very young. So a lot of people will have that accidental litter, like, oh, I didn't even know that she was pregnant. And then before you know it, one of the babies has now impregnated the mom again. So you have another litter. So they have to be separated so early. So that they just multiply. It should really be like multiply, like I was going to say, like guinea pigs and not rabbits. But we have a number of rabbits as well. Hamsters, birds, you name it. We've got it, and we'll foster it out.
Excellent. Now, is it also through the foster care system that you figure out if an animal is good with kids or good with other pets or not good with dogs or needs to be an only child? Or how do you determine?
Yeah, for
that?
most of it, we go on prior history and then our experiences with the pets as well. So, we ask quite a few questions when someone is surrendering a pet. And it's part of why we get so frustrated if pets are left on our doorstep. Like, obviously, it's just not good for the pet to be abandoned at the doorstep.
Yeah.
But it also doesn't provide us any history, which is so necessary to make sure we're finding them the right home. So we'll ask a lot of questions of the surrenderer, the prior family, if they lived with other pets, if they lived with children, what the ages of the children are, what types of pets they lived with, if they had a lot of exposure, to hiking in the woods or swimming, or if they were more of a couch potato, so we can get a good understanding. Because the shelter can be so stressful, we can sometimes see a different personality in the shelter environment than they were at home. And then foster care does sometimes also, we always get more information for those pets that do go into foster care.
Okay. We did talk a little bit earlier about senior animals. And do you find that population hard? How can you accommodate those senior animals so they don't spend the rest of their natural lives in the shelter environment? Because not everybody will want to adopt a 12-year-old cat.
Yeah, it really amazes me how quickly they do get adopted. I mean, it's certainly longer than our, perfectly healthy 2-year-old cats. Those cats, they're gone the moment, we make them available for adoption. But we really make sure that, we do blood work for senior pets when they come in so that we are aware of any issues and can start treating it. And then we are very transparent about any issues that the pet may have and what they're looking for in a home. That way people can really be prepared and know what to expect. And I think that that's really helped in order to get them adopted as quickly as they do. In general, a pet that doesn't have any major health concerns is getting adopted within 3 weeks. Of the shelter. Yeah, even, despite age, if they are a generally healthy pet that doesn't have medical need, they're getting adopted quite quickly.
Wow. I love this little guy's ears. They're so perked up. So I think we touched upon this, but education of potential owners about the commitment of a pet so they don't get surrendered more than once. How do you go about doing that? Is it just an interview process? Do they get to spend time with the animal?
Absolutely, yeah. It's definitely been a challenge throughout the pandemic. Obviously we closed our doors initially at the beginning, and then as it seemed to be prolonged.
It's only 2 weeks.
We had to adjust how we did things, obviously. So now to be sure that we can allow those families time to get to know the pets, we operate by appointment. We limit the amount of people that can come in to meet the pet. It used to be, bring everybody on down. And now we ask, maybe bring, just 2 family members at a time, and we'll make multiple appointments to accommodate that. So, and then it's just a conversation. It amazes me still how many people don't realize how long guinea pigs or rabbits will live.
How long do guinea pigs live?
Pigs can get up there 5 to 8 years old.
Wow,
yeah, and some even longer. Rabbits can be around 10 or longer.
I was about to say 8 to 10.
Yeah. So I think a lot of times people will come in with their, middle schooler and say like, oh, this is the, their pet. It's all in them. They're taking care of it. And we're like, well, in 5 or 6 years, if they go off to college or move out, who's taking care of it then?
Right.
And parents are like, oh, wait, I didn't realize they were going to last that long. Yeah. So we do always, let people know ahead of time what they can expect. Because we want to prevent that second surrender if possible.
Now, with the pandemic, what about the care of the animals while you were shut down? How did that impact your volunteer base?
It was very difficult. For their protection and our staff protection, we shut volunteer activities down completely. Oh, wow. So we were manned completely only by our staff, which we have a very small staff to begin with.
That was my next question.
Yeah.
How How many in the staff? About
So there are 6 animal care staff members, 2 of which are part-time. And then we have our fundraising manager, our development manager, a volunteer coordinator, the business director, and myself. Or Jill at the time. So it's not a huge team of people.
No.
And our volunteers are like the backbone of what we do, the heart and soul. So not having them there was very difficult. We did kind of offset that by sending even more pets into foster care than we usually would. Typically, we only send pets out into foster care if there is like a need, like they're nursing or they have a medical need. But we sent every pet that we could out into foster care. If we had a home willing to take them to foster, they left the building because a few people get sick and, we shut down.
Yeah.
So it was definitely very, very difficult. We were battling that even a few weeks ago. We had a staff member who became sick, and our staff was skeleton crew again.
Oh, no.
And then I was supposed to start, and everyone in my house, despite being vaccinated, we all got sick, and I had to push my start date back a week because we were all sick. So it's crazy how much it did affect us. But we just made changes where we needed to and just kept on going. We're there 365 anyway, so.
So tell me more about foster care. When this happened, how did you find enough foster families for these animals to go to?
I think we lucked out because so many of our volunteer base were now working from home themselves, and it opened up their time a little bit more, and they felt like, well, I can't come in and do my regular shift, so I can take in a foster pet. So that helped a lot, but we also did reach out to the community, and a number of new foster homes stepped up and joined the program as well. So it worked out really, really well, and we still are using them today.
How would somebody become a foster home for shelter animals?
It's really easy. We have an application process and then an orientation with our volunteer coordinator. And basically, if you have current pets, you just need to make sure they're up to date on vaccinations. If you're interested in not adopting and fostering, you do have to have a separate space where you can keep your foster pet because sometimes it is for medical treatment. So like a bedroom, or we have fosters that use a spare bathroom or a den, their finished basement. Some even do their kids' rooms is their foster room, which kids really love. So it's super easy. Once you get the approval that your pets are up to date on vaccines, and you go through the orientation, which is just about an hour conversation with our volunteer coordinator, you're ready to roll. If you're going to be a medical foster, you'll get additional training. It really depends on what kind of foster you're going to become.
Now, are there limits as to how many animals you can foster?
We don't really have a set limit. It depends on your space and what you have available. We have a few absolutely amazing foster homes who have multiple bedrooms, and on times that we've needed it, they've opened up, multiple rooms in their house to foster. There's 2 fosters in particular I can think of over the years who, when we had a lot of kittens, moms and kittens coming in, one foster had, I think, a litter of kittens with a mom cat, a litter of kittens that she was bottle feeding that didn't have a mom, and a litter of puppies in her house.
Wow.
And then we had another foster who had 3 bedrooms. She had a spare bedroom, her own bedroom, and her daughter's bedroom, and she had foster cats in all 3.
Wow.
And that foster tends to take the ones, she had an older daughter who was a young teenager, and they would take the cats that were very shy and needed some socialization. And so she would have 3 super needy cats, and she would bop around from room to room and socialize them.
Fun.
So,
now, has that been successful? I mean, because sometimes that's just their personality, the cat's personality, and they're never going to come out of their shell.
Yeah. So we call those our spirit cats,
Okay.
because they're kind of going to hang out in your house and maybe not a whole lot of your not want a lot of your attention.
Okay.
But they're going to hang out, and you might see them, and they're really grateful that you took them home. And they may totally love your other cats.
Okay.
I have a spirit cat myself.
Okay.
Her name is Peanut, and she is the fluffiest, softest cat in the world. And I have only pet her 3 times in the, I think, 10 years that I've had her.
Oh, wow.
One of those times was when we trapped her to bring her when I moved from one house to another.
Okay.
And I was able to sneak in a pet. But she is so happy to play and snuggle with my other cats, but she does not care if I exist as long as the bowl is full of food.
I was about to say, as long as the litter box is clean and as long as the food bowl is full. So if you are a foster, do you eventually have that opportunity? Again, if it's not medical, all right, I'll keep petting you. As long as it's not medical, can you have the animals interact with each other?
Yes, yep, depending on the situation, definitely. It really depends on the individual pets and their reason for foster, like you said.
Okay.
A lot of times the fostering is only a few weeks long, so it may not get to the point of introduction with other pets because that process takes time to introduce cats in particular.
Yeah, they don't play well with
Dogs,
others.
we don't generally have completely separated. You know, we'll do a walk together if you have a dog at your house. And, you know, if they seem to be getting along, generally they can interact as a more normal member of the household. But cats are typically kept in
They're a lot more aloof.
space. Yeah, they're a little more touchy about making new friends.
So we mentioned earlier that
It's a big yawn.
You sleepy?
His little
I
eyelids are
can't
just
stop.
like falling.
I can't stop petting him because if I do, he's like, "Hey,
Yeah, he's like, don't stop.
don't stop."
His eyes just keep closing.
Oh, he's very relaxed. But those ears are like, "Yo quiero Taco Bell," right? They don't have that commercial anymore. When the pandemic I don't know if it was pandemic related, but you said the animals tend to only be at the shelter maybe 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Is that typical?
Yep, for our usual length of stay for healthy pets that don't have medical treatment needed is about 3 weeks.
Oh,
And that, you know, for some, that process is coming in and maybe getting used to us. We don't put them up for adoption right away. If they're still really nervous around us, we'll let them get used to us. He's really getting
somebody's
comfortable.
fallen. Can't hold himself up anymore.
But yeah, they go very quickly.
Do you want to get down? Yes, I had to turn the page. I'm sorry. So what kind of outreach? You know, I'm looking and it's like we kind of did all this. Oh, kids programs.
Yeah, right now, unfortunately, we still don't have anything going on for the kids. But we have some suggestions on our website about how kids can get involved without, you know, directly coming into the shelter. So there are some great craft ideas on there that you can make toys for the shelter pets.
Fun.
We have a lot of scout troops that will put things together and drop them off for us. We do also have kids do drives for us sometimes. They'll do like penny drives and, ask their friends and family to collect all the change out of their couch cushions to bring it in as a donation. And there are some other options on there as well on like what you can do to help pets in your community. But unfortunately right now we're still not doing any of the stuff we used to do.
Well, when things do open up, what kinds of opportunities are there?
I don't know what we'll open back up to do. In the past, we've done things like having kids come in once a month to find out, to learn about a certain topic. So we've had therapy dogs visit the shelter. We've had dog trainers visit, groomers come in and talk about what they do. We've also had the owner of a dog bakery come in and talk about, what they do and how it's important to use different ingredients and things like that for the pets. So A lot of educational stuff
Okay.
we hope to bring back eventually.
You know, my kids in the past have enjoyed going to a shelter to read to the animals.
We
That was
we
a lot
did
of
a
fun.
program with the YMCA for a few
Oh,
years
cool.
over the summer, right? You know, pandemic, of course, took that away. But yeah, that was a great program that we really enjoyed.
What about Teens Helping Pets?
That is another fantastic program that I really miss having.
That's been put on hold. I know.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at your website. I'm like, oh, this looks fun. Oh, this looks fun.
Yeah, when we had it working, we had about 10 to 15 kids who were part of the program. Again, we have a small staff, so it's a small program because we can only, really be advisors and mentors for so many kids at a time. But they would come in twice a month for a meeting, and they would work on projects for the shelter, whether it was making feral cat shelters to send out into the community with people who are feeding feral cats, or they would build a float for us every year for the Chelmsford 4th of July parade, which we won first place several years for that. And all sorts of, other fun activities. But they would also come in for a weekly shift of animal care. So it was kind of a perk because our volunteer program generally starts a little older. But as a member of Teens Helping Pets, there were certain things that you could do and sign up to take care of our closing duties. So doing afternoon feeding and helping with dishes.
Does he want to get down?
He might want to get down.
Okay.
And socializing the pets and that kind of thing.
Auntie Crystal.
Hey, buddy.
He's like, I want to wander around. I'm falling asleep.
So hopefully we'll be able to start that again. We actually have a full-time employee who has been with the shelter for, I think, 8 years.
Wow.
And she started as a Teens Helping Pets volunteer. So
cool.
For me, that was really cool. We basically watched her grow up. We joke around and tell her mom we helped raise her. But it's been great to see she's in college now, but she also is working full-time with us.
So how would somebody become a volunteer? Are volunteers kind of sort of back at the
Yes.
shelter now?
Yep, where there's a mask mandate, but in Lowell, but we also, required in the shelter, obviously. But we do have volunteers. We just started doing orientations again just a few months ago. So we are accepting new volunteers. We are looking to fill very specific shifts because we're still limiting the number of people in the building.
Because when I've been there, I don't remember the building being that big.
It's not. It is a very small, old-fashioned building. So we will limit that, to keep our staff safe, keep the other volunteers safe, and of course, the visitors, adopters and surrenderers. So we do. The volunteer coordinator is very easy to reach out to, and you can fill out the application right on our website and fill in your availability, and then our volunteer coordinator will reach out to you if we have a shift available that matches what you'd like to do.
What is the time commitment?
We just ask that volunteers fill one shift a week, which is 2 hours.
Oh, okay.
We ask for a commitment of the same shift each week because it just helps us with scheduling and being able to provide the right care for the animals. I know there's everything from dog walking to cat socialization, and everything in between. We have data entry volunteers, special events and fundraising volunteers who help us plan fundraisers and things like that. So,
what is a guardian partner?
Our guardian partners are our corporate partners. So businesses that want to get involved by sponsoring the shelter can sign up to be a guardian partner at there are many different levels. And with that come a few perks, like depending on the level, you might get a coffee visit from a dog where we'll stop in and bring all of your employees some coffee and a visit from a puppy to run around and play. Or tickets to one of our big fundraisers so that you can bring a table full of people to learn more about our organization.
So how do you, obviously the guardian partners provide a lot of your budget. Where else do you get funding from?
Everywhere we can. We have an adoption fee, although it really doesn't
Covers
barely,
like medical costs.
yeah,
maybe.
for most pets, it barely covers what we're doing for them because they're all spayed or neutered, vaccinated, microchipped, dewormed, all that jazz. And then we also apply for many grants throughout the year. We have our donation program, and that is really where a lot of our funds come from, where you can sign up to be a monthly donor in our League of Heroes. And that's a monthly gift of whatever amount is comfortable for you. And then we have a few special events throughout the year. And it just like fundraising. Yeah. Our
We
community,
put the fun in fundraising.
yeah, our community is just so supportive, and we wouldn't be able to do it without our community members, whether they're sending in $5 a month or, giving us $10,000 a year. Every single penny is so important to what we do.
Especially since, like you'd mentioned, it's very small staff and you do rely on volunteers.
Absolutely.
So at least there's not a huge amount of overhead where you have to pay all these salaries.
And exactly.
So.
Yeah, it really does primarily go right back to the animals.
But I do want to talk about fundraisers in a moment. But I'm also thinking about non-monetary donations. What are some things that the shelter could use on a regular basis, and what's your critical needs right now?
We are asking, because we are such a small facility, we have very limited storage. And with our new population of small animals, I think we are like up to 30-something small animals. So rabbits and guinea pigs and birds and such. We have even less space for storage because we've had to spread out our pets a little bit more. So we ask that people take a look at our website for our wish list and our current needs. We keep a very active Amazon wish list of things that we are in desperate need of. And then blankets and towels almost always we could use. We will put out special requests for specific foods that we need for pets who maybe are a little picky and don't like what we generally serve. And yeah, keeping an eye on our social media is where we'll post usually our most pressing needs.
Okay. And what kind of turnaround have you seen when you put out a request?
Oh my God, people are amazing. We will be like, hey folks, we need bleach. And 40 minutes later, someone's ringing the doorbell saying, oh, we saw your Facebook post and I was in line at the supermarket, so I grabbed you some bleach.
Wow,
yeah, so
cool.
it's really amazing. We see such a really, really great response from our community.
Oh, excellent. Tell me more about In-Service Day. Is that related to the corporate donors, or is that just something separate, or?
It can be, yeah. I love in-service days because it gives people an opportunity to get into the shelter and just be us for the day. So we've had some great teams come in over the years from various different businesses. They'll send down 5 to 10 employees and just work alongside our animal care staff. So they'll clean the kennels, they'll clean cages, they'll scrub floors, restock food, they'll fold laundry, do dishes, all the really grunt work. We put them to work.
But everything needs to get done.
Give the animal care staff a little bit of a break those days. But it's a nice way for people to really see what our staff is doing and how hard they're working for the animals every day.
And then if they happen to want to fill out an adoption form while they're there.
Yeah, or a volunteer application. We've gotten a few volunteers out of in-service days.
Okay.
Yeah. We usually try to end their day with something a little fun like walking dogs or
playing
cuddling
with
some kitties.
Oh, cats are just so cute. I'm a cat person, if you haven't figured that out yet.
Well, he's almost a cat. He's smaller than most cats.
My cat, yeah. Do you have what kind of fundraisers do you normally do, and do you have any fundraisers coming up?
Yeah, we do a lot of different kinds of fundraisers. Dining to donate nights are really fun. We do flatbread night. They're so generous to us every year. It's so good there. I go every time. They're really great. They'll host us. So we'll do that with Flatbread and other places as well. We also hold online fundraisers sometimes for various different times throughout the year. We'll probably be kicking one off soon for his mom. Her name is Betty White Socks, and she has heartworms. So we'll probably be kicking off a fundraiser for her pretty soon. We have a Santa Photos event every year, and it sells out. So we have Santa there to take pictures with your pet, and it's really fun.
Oh, man.
And
You actually have cats participate in that.
we do. We have some pretty funny outtakes, and so far,
Oh, my
knock on
gosh.
wood,
Knock on wood.
Santa has not been injured. But he's a great Santa. He's been our Santa for, I think, going on 10 years now. And he is just really awesome, and he loves the animals, and he's been peed on a few more times than I think he would have liked.
Poor
But
Santa.
that's a really fun event that we do. An annual auction. It used to be in person, but it's been online the last couple of years with a live stream. That's really fun and very
It's like
important.
a silent auction? Or
It
just,
is. Yeah, it's all
okay.
online now, and you can bid from home. And then we did a live stream, and you dropped, if you bought a certain ticket level, you could get a little gift package with some special treats in there for you. I think this year we also had a sponsor, a wine sponsor, or actually a tequila sponsor. So you got a little bit of tequila in your gift bag
Sign
if
me
you
up.
were an adult. So that was fun.
Yeah, that whole 21 and over thing. You know.
Yeah, we definitely checked. And then we also, actually coming up, we have our Valentine's auction, which is online.
Ooh, okay.
So if you're looking for something for your honey, it opens on
Is it all
February 4th.
pet-related stuff?
No, nope.
Okay.
It opens up February 4th through 11th. You can go to a link on our website, lowellhumanesociety.org, to find it. And from there, you can purchase an e-card to send to someone that you love, whether it's a partner or a parent or a kid. You can do an e-card. You can do a physical card that we'll send from the shelter, from a shelter pet in your honor. And then we also have, I think, a video card that you could do too. So those are fun. But then there are also the auction items that you can bid on as gifts for your loved ones. So if you're going to buy a chocolate basket or a wine basket or a spa gift certificate anyway, we're encouraging people just to check out our website and see.
It's a great idea, yeah.
Yeah, and then it's kind of like you get double karma points for that because you're helping the animals and giving an awesome gift.
Exactly. So what are some other opportunities? So, well, backing up to the auction, is it too late, or do you normally get volunteers to help get donations, or is it too late for people to do that?
No, absolutely. We love having volunteers help to go out into the community and get donations. We also love, if you're a business or you have a business that would like to donate,
It doesn't have to be pet related.
No, it doesn't have to be pet related at all. We have everything from landscaping gift cards to salon gift cards and everything in between. Certainly little pet stuff is great too. But anything you can imagine that we could auction off, people love.
So what other opportunities do you, or tell me about some of the other opportunities like Dress Down Friday or the Giving Tree. What are those about?
So those are just other ways that we try to let businesses know that they can be involved. Sometimes being a guardian partner just isn't in their budget to be able to reach that. So they want a way that their employees can contribute as a whole and get involved. So something simple as Dress Down Fridays, where you pay $5 to wear jeans to work on a Friday, and that money is donated to the shelter. And maybe the company matches that donation. Our Giving Tree is always really popular. We've seen classrooms do it.
So just like at holiday time, or is that any time of year?
It can be any time of year. And you just set up a Christmas tree, or you could set up a topiary plant or something in your business with wish list items. Or it can just be monetary amounts, and you collect the donations and then bring them to the shelter.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, so it's a really nice way just to let people know that you support the shelter and that you're encouraging them to support the shelter too.
Fun. Now, I think we we made it through all of my questions. We do still have some time left. Is there anything that you want to make sure that our audience knows about from the shelter?
Yeah, so a big thing lately
Okay.
that we want to make sure people realize is that a cat that is outside is not necessarily lost or missing. In Massachusetts specifically, there are no laws requiring you to keep your pet indoors or on a tether or anything. And so I think a lot of people see a cat outside, especially this time of year, and they go bonkers because it's like that cat needs help. It might be 15 pounds and perfectly happy sauntering down the street, but immediately people just in their hearts, they want to help and they want to save that animal. But oftentimes by taking that cat in, it's actually displacing them. So we want people to realize that a cat that's outside isn't necessarily in dire need of your help right at that moment. The things you want to look for are whether or not they're a happy social cat. If it's a very confident cat just kind of strolling down the street, it's probably a neighborhood cat that lives in your neighborhood, has a home. If they walk right up to you and rub against you, that's an even better sign that they are probably very comfortable outdoors and don't need saving. If you're questionable and they continue to visit, you could put a paper collar, just a piece of paper with a little bit of Scotch tape that says, "Am I yours?" and your phone number, just loosely around their neck. Tight enough that it's not going to fall off, but also you don't want them getting caught in it. And give it, a couple days to a week, see if anyone calls. If they do have a family, they're going to call and say, "Hey, why'd you put this paper on my cat?" And you could say, "Oh, I just wanted to make sure you had a family." And then because the studies have shown that when you remove a cat from the neighborhood, and like the closest shelter to here, right, would be Lowell, people aren't necessarily going to think to call the shelter in Lowell. And they might go missing for like a week, 2 weeks sometimes, and it doesn't make them think to call right away because maybe the cat goes missing for a week at a time every now and then.
That's true.
And again, because there aren't any laws about loose cats, we don't have any required hold period. So by the time you go looking for your cat could be well onto a new home. Now, we have a hold period that we do because we want to give people a chance to find their pet. So it's important just to make sure that that cat doesn't have a family in the neighborhood before you go whisking it off to save it at another shelter. Now, if the cat looks injured, if the cat looks ill, disheveled, of course, take that cat in. If the cat is seeming really scared and hiding, also a good chance that it is a scared indoor cat that got loose. And that's a good time to reach out to us for help for a trap and to help arrange getting that cat indoors.
Now, if somebody goes to adopt a cat, do you have any requirements or do you strongly encourage? What are your thoughts about making cats indoor cats?
We feel strongly that cats should be indoor cats. But there are times that it is beneficial for a specific cat to be outdoors. I mentioned litter box issues before. There are some cats who maybe have been indoor outdoor their whole life and they only go to the bathroom outside. That's a cat that we will encourage people to have as an indoor outdoor cat. We also encourage people who are adopting a very energetic cat. We have cats sometimes that get very overstimulated easily. And they tend to show that by grabbing onto your legs and biting. And not hard. They're just, it can feel a little hard, but it's not aggressive. It's just like too much energy. So we encourage people that they could also give them a chance outside. But for the most part, we really do ask for them to keep indoor cats. And if they're looking for an outdoor cat, we'll steer them toward a cat that has experience with the outdoors already.
Well, we are out of time. So thank you for that little lesson on cats.
Absolutely.
But I want to thank you very much for joining me, and thank you, Lorax, for coming. You were a very good boy. And I also want to thank everyone at home for tuning in this evening. I hope you realized, or hope you enjoyed the conversation. and realize that pets are really family members. So anyway, thank you very much for tuning in. Have a wonderful evening, and I'll see you around town. Good night.